Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the most overpowered one-handed sword build in Wuchang Fallen Feathers. I'll be honest, one-handed swords are the weakest weapon type, however they're the best for spell casting, and there's actually some points in the skill tree that we don't want to actually take, as this weapon has a very interesting way of playing. Quite possibly the best secondary weapon in the game is the Darkfrost Edge here, because the evasive maneuver, which lets you take a free attack, and you get this at the very start of the game, and you also get the Astral Blade a little bit later on. But with this sword here, we can just basically avoid one free attack with that evasive maneuver there. So we apply this buff onto ourselves, and we also generate Skyborn Might passively, which is another nice thing about this. There's a lot of spells in the game which give you a bit of distance from the enemy, and these can be extremely effective to use because some bosses just want to stick on you really heavily. But since we generate Skyborn Might pretty much on demand there, we can play a bit more defensively against some bosses and also deal a ton of status damage to them. Best two early game weapons would be the Astral Blade and Darkfrost Edge. We do get some better options late game with the Plumed Grace, literally the last weapon you'll end up getting, and then also the Zanlu Sword. So these would be great for New Game Plus, and I would recommend using them because the Zanlu Sword boosts up your spellcasting, and the Plumed Grace boosts your spellcasting the most in the game. And the Astral Blade here is the second most powerful when it comes to spellcasting, but the Darkfrost Edge is a great secondary weapon. So we actually have two weapons that we can put in our main hand and kind of spec around. I really like the Twin Bandits dual blade here. I have a build on how to use this effectively. It has a block ability. You got the sudden strike. It's got a lot of really great stuff about it, and it can parry. So that's the biggest part about using this weapon. Or if you want to go with the longsword, the Lashing Whip is great too. It also scales off the agility stats, so we don't have to invest too much into other stats. Same with the dual blades here. You can go with the spears. I do like the going with the either the Cloud Pierce or the Steam Powered Spear. Steam Powered is probably the best for this build. The most powerful Benedictions you can see here is buffed up. So going with the 3 that give you increased damage if 3 discipline skills are known, this gives you a very powerful damage buff. However, there is another nice way that we can build up some with the Skyborn Rejuvenation. So after you get Skyborn Might, you get Life Leech for a very short moment. So this can actually go extremely powerful on this weapon. As for armor, use the best available. The Ghost Warrior Vambrances, or Ghost Warrior in general, is going to be the best late game for stabbing and slashing damage negation. Go with whatever you got for feathering, depending on the boss's damage type. Early game, the Ming armor is going to be really good for reducing your overall physical damage taken, or the Pirate armor as well. For pendants, there's actually quite a few. Going with the Sun Pendant, which will increase the potency of our spells, no brainer here. And then also the Crane Pendant can increase your potency of spells when below a certain health point threshold. And this one is actually a much more intense effect. I also like to have the Twin Infant Pendant here for increased stamina recovery speed. It's just useful to have that one there. If you're going against a large boss, go with the Fiend Felling Pendant. Draco Lich is good against any boss that roars. The Eagle Pendant can increase our stabbing power, which is okay. The Astral Blade has a bit of magic damage though, so it's not as good on this weapon. Nameless Eye, reduce damage taken, always a good one. And the Bird Pendant will increase our magic damage on our weapons. So this is another great choice to go with. Now, spells are really the big focus here. Early game, Burning Flames gives you that jump back and fire damage. The Infernal Flames will give you a tracking fire projectile. Burn is extremely effective in this game, so it's nice to use these. These can both stack up Burn really easily. Once you get Ethereal form, you can stop using the Darkfrost Edge as much because that is basically the same effect here. With the Ethereal form, you get to take one free attack basically for the next 5 seconds, and it'll also give you Skyborn Might if you dodge an attack, so you can keep casting it. It's pretty overpowered. If we want to build up Frostbite buildup, we can go with the Dark Frost Flames here as well. Or as you saw earlier on, we have the Echo of Magus. That's a little bit later. I find Frostbite works really well on this, as it does a set amount of damage off the enemy's health bar. And also, it's pretty easy to set up with one of the skill trees that we get. Late game Echo Zaoyun, one of the best spells, especially against demons. The Echo of Lubing Zhang is actually one of the best early games. However, it is a feathering. It is a 3 cost that we can reduce to 2. The reason this is so good is it gives you a jump back and it can give you alacrity, so you can keep casting this and getting away from the enemy. Demon Bane Strike's also nice to be able to knock enemies down. This is another feathering. And if we're going to go around featherings, the Echo Zonyanzi here, and New Game Plus is the best spell, really. It's extremely powerful. Lotus Soul Flame near a large boss can just completely do a ton of damage. It's got a 5-star or a 5 Skyborn Might cost though. And early game Vorpal Blade, not terrible. It's going to be lower damage, but it's only 1 cost and can get casted really easily. And finally, the Echo Bow Magus is really good, but this is better paired with something like the Axe or the Longsword. However, you can use this sword here to generate Skyborn Might to use the Echo Bow Magus. Don't forget to use the Ancient Chisel to return to a shrine and get a buff. I'll be showing you the full skill tree from levels 1 to 100 here. I always recommend just going first to grab the health potions, as this is going to be extremely useful. And second level, Biding Time. This is a big component of the one-handed sword, so this basically gives you Skyborn Might over time, and you can gain stacks of it, and then you can regain your Skyborn Might a bit quicker. So basically, you want to be continually casting spells and gaining it. So dodges, obviously perfect dodge if possible, are super useful. This is a scam. Don't grab Wind Force. This makes it so you do a charge heavy attack. It eats up one of your Skyborn Might. The thing is, the charge heavy attack sucks on the one-handed sword. It's like a multiple stabbing attack. You're going to get hit against every single boss if you use this. So don't grab this. We can use the charge heavies if you really want to, but it's better to swap to a different weapon and do that. We then can go left because this weapon pairs well, as I mentioned, with some of the other weapons on the tree. So you can, if you prefer going with the longsword or the dual blades, you can take this because it'll make you have better swift draws. They can't be interrupted and they're a little bit quicker. But we can also go back this way. Now, the thing is we want to get our weapon buff. I actually think it's best to go around magic. The best earlier game weapon is going to be magic scaling, and some of the best spells in the game are magic base instead of feathering. So we're going to go this way here. The problem that is the best discipline is actually down this way. However, we can just continue along here. There's a discipline here, the spinning kick. It's all right it's better off actually just to use spells, but the bonus here with the 90% madness gives you additional, it sets up obliterate attacks a little bit better. But we're going to continue down here. When at 90% madness, the final attack of a one-handed sword grants 1 stack of Skyborn Might if it hits an enemy. We don't generate a lot of Skyborn Might from attacking, but this is better than nothing. Once we have this, you can continue on this way if you want to increase your overall weapon damage, because once you get to this node here, you can then put 3 stacks worth into it like that, and then we're going to make our way back to the left-hand section. If you're using the dual blades, it is good to go with some of these points into the dual blades, but you don't have to. We can stick with one-handed swords. We can go through here. Swift draws are much more difficult to interrupt. We get +5 vitality and then boost up our potions. That's just a good idea. We always need that up as much as possible. Continue on down this way. And since we're going to stack ourselves up to 90% madness, we can recover some health with this. It's useful, but continuing here, we'll regain stamina on getting Skyborn Might. And we want to either go up or down. I really like the leech. Basically, this gives you lifesteal. It's extremely effective because this weapon attacks really fast. However, some bosses are weak to some of the other things like Poise Break. We do have a weapon that gets powered up with Poise Break, and we have some abilities later on that can use extra Poise Break. Basically, just take whatever the boss is weak to. You can obviously go with the Leech, because that's just a good choice, but we want to grab the Fury of the Skyborn here. What this does is, so whenever we cast spells like the Echo Looping Zang, we have 1 less cost of Skyborn Might, so it takes it from 3 to 2, which is very useful, especially against some early game bosses, and this is just really useful. If you find yourself using the temperaments, take this, which will boost up your charges of it, and then the acupoints, which is the buffs that we apply onto it. And then we can continue down the magic line here, because there is a nice +5 there, and then another +5, which will boost the scaling on our weapon and our spells. And then we can go down here and grab the +5 to agility and the one-handed sword. We can go down as well and just swing through the feathering and grab the Vanguard Breaker, which is a pretty useful one for generating the Skyborn Might. You don't have to do this though. We can also come back around here, grabbing the agility and vitality, which is much more beneficial, and then come down here and grab the Swift Lunge. What's so useful about Swift Lunge is it gives us a big kind of dashing attack towards the enemy, it gives us some mobility that we need. This adds a second attack with Clash, so if the enemy's attacking us, we can use this and then chain it into this and clash the weapon, which deflects all the incoming damage. And then with this one above 90% madness, this will inflict Frostbite. As mentioned, we are good with Frostbite. We'd also then grab the +5 to agility. If you want the +5 feathering, you can go there. But we can also go up here and grab another +5 to agility. As mentioned, it's really good to go into the dual blades because they scale mostly off agility, and you can get yourself another really easy +5 to agility by going that way. Or we can go back around over here with things like the Skyborn Cobbles to increase our Skyborn Might stacks, which is very useful to have. This makes it so we can cast some of our 4+ Skyborn Might cost spells quicker, or not quicker, but don't get staggered while doing it. This is really useful because some of them are so useful. That is the Echo Zhao Yun there, and it's very, very good against a lot of enemies, but you can get staggered out of it. The +50% madness increased feathering attack power is not super useful here because we don't have many weapons that have that scaling. We can then grab the +1 temperaments and then go down to be able to boost our health potions a little bit more. Now at this point, there is another increase that we can get to our Skyborn Might, and we get to choose again between going with feathering or magic. Again, early game, magic's going to be the best, and on New Game Plus, feathering is likely going to be the best choice. We can continue down here and get another acupoint, but I do think it's best to go through our skill tree a little bit more and grab some of the weapon buffs here. So this is a good one to buff up. And then also you can go with some of the other increases to stats. Like if you want to grab more magic here, you can go with that, or increasing your overall feathering. Just, it's nice to be able to split your casting too. But I honestly think that it's best to then go spec into the longsword or the dual blades. The dual blades are extremely overpowered, And with this, we actually have a really good setup, so we can continue along down this here, because we do get the +5 to agility. So even if we don't take any further stacks in it, the agility is good. You can then grab the axe for the extra +5 vitality and endurance, which is always a nice one. It's good to get these early buffs. And the spear also has some pretty easy buffs to get. We're going to ignore strength and just grab the agility for further increasing our overall damage. The longsword starts with strength, so it's probably not best to continue that way. And actually good to go into this skill tree a little bit more. And going into this, if we're using any type of spell casting, these are going to be some of the best, like increasing frostbite buildup, increasing burn buildup, depending on what spells we're using. Very useful for late, for not costing a lot either. And we also, whenever using some of these abilities here, like the deflect, not really applicable to us. Swift draws are good whenever, because we actually have an ability to use them. But this unbroken focus is really good because of that extra biding time. So it won't decay below 3 stacks. That means we get Skybound Might back quicker if we're at 90% madness or above. Honestly, think at this point though, it's better to either spec into feathering and go full spell casting, or spec into the dual blades. The dual blades are just really good. We can grab all the buffs to them because they're all really good actually. And then Blade Master is the best skill for the dual blades. What Blade Master does is it basically buffs up the weapon damage, makes them even faster. And when you use this, we want to put Leech on and we become immortal. This will also increase the duration here and increase the makes it so that you have at above 90% madness clash with your enemy, which is just crazy. So that's very useful to have. And then we'll continue down here, taking the +5 to endurance, going through the whole tree. You can buff this weapon up. Don't take it all the way to max. Take all the stacks of everything you can grab, though, because all of these are really effective to have. And then we can continue up this way and around here. This will give us the we deflect weapons with the Twin Bandits. Twin Bandits is really the only option for weapon. This is just the best weapon in the game, in my opinion. Super broken. And deflecting will give you extra Skybound Might. You can continue down here though, grab the +5 to vitality, go around the back end here, grab the +5 to endurance, and then come swing back around here because there's another buff to grab, which gives you Skybound Might when you clash on your dash attacks. Just nuts. So we want to use the one-handed swords for defensive purposes, kind of, and then spell casting, and then swap to dual blades if we want to do pure damage, because the R1 from dual blades is just more damage than we'll get from any of these. Again, don't take the wind force here. It's kind of a noob trap. Don't grab it. And we can continue down the spears tree a little bit too, because there are some nice buffs. Like we can go up here and grab the +5 to agility. That's never a bad idea. As always, it's good to have more agility there. And there is magic down in this tree, or we can continue on and grab the +5 to endurance. Endurance is super useful as well. And as you get into higher levels, you can go around grabbing like the +5 vitality and things like that, but it's entirely up to you. We don't really need strength, but grabbing feathering can be nice too. It's just another option. As mentioned, Astral Blade, good early game, Darkfrost Edge. But if you're later on in the game, the best spellcasting blade is Plume Grace, and then Zanlu Sword is just crazy. If you have a feathering build, it's the best weapon. And with the buffs to spellcasting, we actually do quite a bit of build up on different spells, like the Echo Bow Magus here, which this is Echo Bow Sorcerer, which will do a ton of frostbite build up there, as you can see, almost taking him out. Frostbite does a ton of damage in this game. If you're into feathering, there are some really effective feathering spells, but I said at the start of the video, it's better to grab some of them in New Game Plus, so they get a little bit more powerful then. Burning Flames, though, always a nice spell. I did go over spells a little bit earlier on in the video. Burning is a really powerful condition in this game, but for us, when we're attacking, go for the dash attacks, run around with the weapon to generate Skybound Might, and then swap to something a little bit more powerful like the Lashing Whip or the Twin Bandits dual blades. So let me know if you have any questions. Hit the subscribe button below if you found this video useful, and I hope you have a great day. We'll catch you in the next one.